Good morning. So today we are going to be doing an activity for our Do Now. It is called the Murder Handshake. Do not share with anybody what you are. Do not show anybody what you are. Okay? And I'll give further directions in about 10 seconds. Back here. So, murder handshake is an activity that we're going to do to introduce the concept of natural selection and evolution. Remember yesterday, what did we talk about? What was one of the key topics that we talked about yesterday? In our notes that we wrote down, or the crash course video.
The different types of diversities.
The different types of diversities. Does anybody remember what they are?
Ecosystem, species, and genetic.
Ecosystem, species, and then what was the last one?
Genetic.
Genetic diversity. So murder handshake plays off of this idea of genetic diversity, in which one of you is going to be a murderer, and the murderer is the person that's going to put the environmental pressure on our ecosystem. On their card, it says murder, and it gives them a specific direction on who to kill. Okay? It could be a group of people, it could be one person. You may shake the murderer's hand and not even die. All right? It all just depends on what it is that person is looking for. The detective's job is to try and figure out who the murderer is before they kill everybody that they're instructed to kill. Everybody else is a potential victim. Okay? So, in just a minute, this is how the game is going to go. Everybody's going to stand up and head to the back of the room, with the exception of the detective. Who is my detective? On your card, who says detective?
You have to say it?
Yeah, detective.
Oh, it's me.
Okay, detective, you come up, and you're the only one that's going to reveal yourself, and you're going to stand at the front of the room.
Shall I do it?
Yeah, come up here. Stand at the front of the room. So, Detective Brian is responsible for figuring out who the murderer is before they murder everybody on their instructed card. Everybody go ahead and stand up and head towards the back of the room. And just don't say anything or start yet. Okay. The rules are very simple. Murderer, you are going to, along with everybody else, shake each other's hands. Don't start yet. When you shake somebody's hand, if that is somebody that you're instructed to kill, you're going to give them a little squeeze. Okay? So if you're typically a firm handshake type person, just loosen it up a little bit so there's no confusion. Alright? So my murderer will shake your hand and give you a little squeeze at the end. That's how you know you have now died. When you die, you're going to head into this back room. Okay? Our detective needs to figure out who the murderer is before all of those people die. When the murderer shakes your hand and squeezes your hand, do not make a face, do not react, don't giggle, don't laugh, just know that you got murdered and walk to the back of the classroom. Okay? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
What questions do we have?
If you're murdered, walk into the back.
If you're murdered, you're going to walk in the back classroom. You want to continuously shake each other's hand. The murderer, if they shake your hand and they squeeze, you must die. The murderer, if you shake somebody's hand, you must participate in following the rules and squeezing their hand. So try and stay a little bit away from Brian so he doesn't see you. You want to be discreet, but you still need to follow the rules. Okay? All right, go ahead and I want you to get into more of like a group, a cluster. That way it's not super obvious. And you may begin the game.
Everyone start.
So you must stay up here and you have one guess.
I don't trust her. Crystal's birthday. You're a murderer. I don't like you. I'm scared. I'm scared. Oh,
So murderer, do you have a guess as to who it is or not yet? Not yet.
It's Joseph.
You can wait it out a little bit more if you need to.
Oh, crap.
If you die, you need to head into the back prep room.
Do they shake everyone's hand?
If you've shaken everybody's hand, keep shaking their hand.
What the? What is up with you guys?
If you're still alive, you can kind of migrate your way towards the front of the room.
Oh, I think I got it. Oh, for sure. For sure.
All right, who is it?
No, wait.
Oh, not yet.
Wait.
Oh, wait. I'm confused. Okay, what?
Oh. What the?
What the heck?
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait it out.
You're just gonna wait it out? You're gonna let the murderer kill everybody?
Yeah. Oh no. You know what? I'll sacrifice it. I think it's Robert. Dude. I think it's Robert. Oh my god.
Robert, is it you?
No.
No, okay. Everybody may come back inside.
Reverse
Well, you guys all
Alright, Brian, you can go ahead and take a seat.
I think I know who it was.
Will the murderer come up to the front of the room, please?
You failed.
I
You
don't know.
failed.
Will the murderer please come up to the front of the room?
The murderer is terrible.
It was you?
Okay,
I knew it.
You look so obvious.
everybody else, you can go ahead and take a seat.
Literally, you guys wouldn't like.
Halfway through the game.
So hard. It's because you guys walked in a weird. I couldn't see your handshakes either.
Well, that's the point.
No.
For the murder to stay hidden.
Okay, Brianni, do you have your slip or did you already give it to Crystal? Okay. Can you read your slip out loud for me?
Murder, squeeze the hand of all boys.
So who were you supposed to murder?
Boys.
Why were there girls still murdered?
Oh, Mom.
Yeah.
Because she
Yeah.
doesn't
See what? Eliminate everything.
She's not assuming gender.
Okay, you can go ahead and
I
take
don't
a
want to
seat.
assume anyone's gender.
Oh, great.
Okay. So, the environment wanted to put a pressure on all of the males to adapt or they were going to die. Alright, so that's just a simple
Well,
natural selection activity. To introduce our lab for today, go ahead and take out your pre-lab and your lab handout from yesterday. So take out your pre-lab and your lab handout from yesterday.
She asked the question, I was like, that's what a murderer would say.
because Jessica laughed, gave over to Robert, and then I'm like, wait, she didn't do anything on Brianne, so he.
Our pre-lab and our what?
And the lab handout that goes with it from yesterday.
At the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're just taking it out.
Well, you guys don't know. Well, I guess I'm the case closed. Oh, you were gonna do fun someday in the future.
So, for homework, you were supposed to do two things. One, the bar graph. Two, the pre-lab. I'm hearing some sighs of concern. One, the bar graph. Two, the pre-lab. I asked you to do the pre-lab because I understand that the directions for this lab can be a bit confusing. So if you did not conduct the pre-lab, one, you're going to have to make it up. But two, you're going to have to really look at the directions in order to be successful for today's lab. So, I'm going to explain the lab to you, and then you're going to get started. Can somebody read the purpose of this lab?
In this natural selection simulation, we'll study a closely related phenomenon, the evolution of protective correlation. Correlation. Many animals, especially insects, are very well camouflaged against visual detection by predators, especially birds. In some cases, the insects mimic some part of their habitat, such as a leaf.
Perfect, thank you. So we have two things that are underlined here. We have protective coloration. Who can tell me what that means?
Like camouflage?
Yeah, camouflaging when if you're an insect or a bug or like an amphibian, right, and you can change colors to adapt to the environment, you have protective coloration. The other one is mimic. What does it mean to mimic? Yeah, to copy, to blend in, right, to resemble the environment. So we have two questions that we're going to look at in this lab. Number one, how does mimicry and protective coloration evolve? And we're going to use that based on our environment, which is that color fabric. And those little circles inside each cup is to represent butterflies. And how does natural selection by predators affect the makeup of the population? So the first thing I'd like you to do is open up to your lab handout under data collection. Question 1 is going to ask you to make a prediction as to which color you think will best be suited for this environment. Now, the only thing we're going to change is where you see brown, change it to blue. So we replaced brown with blue. So this color. So go ahead on your data table. You have two places. Wherever it says brown, change it to blue. And then in a complete sentence, I want you to write out which color do you think will be the most successful in blending in with the environment. And your options are on your data table. Take a minute. Go ahead and record that down in number 1. Bless you.
Seeing which one would survive the longest in this environment. Color act. None of these. There's no strong in the first. Except change brown to blue. Either red or purple. Which one's red or purple? No, I'm not sure.
Okay, let's take a poll and let's see. You may only vote for one. Raise your hand if you think purple will be the most successful in blending in to the environment. 1, 2, 3. 4. 5. Okay. Raise your hand if you think yellow. 0. What about blue? What about green? No. And then lastly, what about red? Okay, so we have purple and red as hopefully our last two surviving butterflies in order for our prediction to be correct. All right, so this is what you're gonna do. With your cup, you have this little square. It has 4 different roles for you to assume. One of you is going to be a predator. One of you is going to be a recorder. One of you is going to be responsible for the environmental setup. And then one of you is going to be the referee. If there are only 3 people in your group, then whoever is the referee will also be the recorder. So just remember the 2 R's are going to go together. Okay, recorder, referee. You're going to decide who that role is for generation 1. And And then as you go through the different generations, you are going to switch roles, that way everybody can be everything as the simulation goes along. There are a couple things that I want you to just be mindful of. Please read over each step before you begin the simulation. It's gonna explain to you how to record the data, how to repopulate the environment, and what to write down, in making sure that you always have 20 butterflies in your environment and your predator takes out 10. Specifically pay attention to step 3. So whoever the predator is, when you're collecting the butterflies from the environment, you must collect one at a time. You must collect the first one you see, and as soon as you grab it, you must break eye contact with the environment. This ensures that you're not kind of zoning in and you see them all at the same time, but when you break eye contact and you have to come back, your eyes have to readjust to the environment. Grab the first one you see, put it to the side. Those are gonna be your dead butterflies. The referee's job is to make sure that first, you're breaking eye contact, and then second, as their role of the recorder, writing down the data at the end of the simulation. If you're responsible for environmental setup, you're gonna be the one setting up the environment. Whenever you begin a generation, at all times there must be 20 butterflies at the beginning. The amount depends on how you've collected them throughout your simulation, okay? That person can set them up strategically and blend them in with the environment, or they can just randomly scatter them however they want. What questions do we have? What is the first thing you're gonna do with your group? Assign roles and read all of the steps. Once you've read all of the steps and you know exactly what you're doing and you each have a role, you may begin the simulation. I'm gonna walk around making sure that you're on the right track. Generation 1 in that column should all have 4, right? Because you're gonna start with 4 colors in each one. So where you see 1, you're starting with 4 of each color. And then over time, yes, it will change. Hopefully, right? That's the idea. Okay, I'm gonna set a timer for 15 minutes and then I'll reassess to see if we need some more time, if we've gone through the generations, and then if we have finished collecting our data, we'll move on to the summary questions, but we'll reassess in 15 minutes, okay? All right, go ahead, you may begin. What can you hear?
Because I have to be it anyways, eventually.
Oh, you just can't see. Don't look at it. Oh.
It's like when they're actually doing it.
Yeah, when they're actually setting up the environment and they're putting the butterflies on the paper, then you cannot watch them do that.
No, they don't want to.
Okay,
How long does this look like?
did we read all of the steps?
No, it's telling you got the 4 each.
Yes, you do. There you go. You have extra because you need to repopulate your environment, right? So I just gave you a bunch, that way you can repopulate. Okay, who is my environmental setup person? Okay, so, remember in generation 1, you wrote down, right, 4 of each. So, you're gonna place 4 of each in here. Who is my predator? So you cannot watch him do this. Okay, you have to look away. Who is my referee? Okay, so you need make sure that she looks away every time she picks one up and as he's setting up the environment. And in my recorder, you're gonna write down the population after you've repopulated at the end of the round. Okay, so she's gonna take away 10. You're gonna have 10 left. You need to repopulate and match those colors with those extra butterflies. Okay, if that's confusing, read your steps. So set up your 4
Be
perfect.
sure to pick the very first butterfly. After all, time is energy. Routine, remember, so you can't afford to.
So explain to me what you're doing right now.
By being too picky. Put your eating butterflies in a separate cup. They are in your nose.
So if, as soon as he begins, the moment he looks, he grabs the first one he sees, he puts it away, he cannot look at that. He has to break eye contact with the environment. So he has to look away and then come back and take another one.
But of the same color?
Only one at a time, and the first one he sees, that's the one he has to grab. So he can't go like this.
Each drum.
Yes.
That's gonna be generation two.
Well, you should only have 4 yellows, 4 reds, 4 purples. Oh,
So right now.
so not all of them are gonna be, not all of them are gonna be successful, right? Yes, Belle?
Look away.
Well, I guess that, since you have only, after you pick them up,
Yes.
so how does these numbers change?
Okay, so you start with 20, you put 20 on your environment, correct? Who's my predator? Okay, predator, you're gonna take off how many? 10. Referee, who's the referee? You're gonna make sure you keep score, keep count, that she's only taking off 10, and that she's breaking eye contact. Recorder.
Wait, was it 10
Or
at once or?
recorder and referee? Yes.
Like one,
So
two?
this is how you're gonna get your 20. Let's say, at the end of the simulation.
I already have it.
I'm just gonna count it right now.
So it's like one green.
Let's say you've killed
Yeah, it was good.
the other 10. Let's say these were the 10 that were left
So there's
on your
no
fabric.
yellow, one
You
red.
see that you have 3 green,
And everything else.
3 yellow, 2 purple, 1 blue, 1 red. You're gonna take from your extra and you're gonna repopulate. So you're gonna say, okay, I have,
So then you write down like how it was?
you're gonna write down what it is.
No, that's gonna be generation two.
So yeah, so you're gonna match, there's 1 for that.
Oh, you're only adding in one more for every color?
No, you're matching it. So notice how this only had 1. Not like pairs, cause they can be in 3s. Right, so let's say red only had 1, okay, I'm gonna repopulate, red gave birth, right?
Oh my
To one other one, blue, one other one, purple had
So you
2,
just double it?
2, 1, 2, 3, so 1,
Stop looking, stop looking.
2, and then you need 1 more yellow. So it must be the color that it is, you just can't grab an extra
Yeah, one
one.
red.
And then 1,
Now select this guy and everybody that's for.
2, 3. So then when you count, you'll notice that this equals 20. This is what you write down for 2. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's.
So you're gonna start with 4 of each color, set it up.
Or you just go like this.
There you go.
Huh? No. You get one, and then you stop, and then you get one.
Regeneration when you started with 4 of each, so you're gonna write down 4.
Stop cheating.
Okay, so what were you left with on the fabric?
Yeah,
These ones.
So let's say,
Okay.
So.
So now you want
Like,
to
let's say you have two shiny blues.
repopulate, yep, they're all gonna have a baby, each one.
One for each of the blues. Yeah.
So this should equal to 10,
So
but
we're
when
just
you
going back to
repopulate 1 to 1,
We're just gonna
that
start
should
with
equal to 20. So you have 3 reds, you're gonna give birth to 3 red little butterfly babies. 1, 2, 3, that's good. Then you have 4 blues.
These are the extras. Do you have extras of the ones that were on the street? So.
It's right.
Don't, look.
So there's 3 reds, so take out 3
Don't
reds.
cheat.
So now,
Don't do something like
this should equal to 20.
Alright,
This is
go.
what you're gonna record for generation 2. Okay, does that make sense?
So
Hold up.
No, we're doing that.
But.
12 plus 8 is 20. Yep, that's correct.
You're gonna pick one up, look away. Okay.
Go.
Go ahead.
There's a new one in there, right? So yes, now you're gonna switch roles. So you have 0 purples, 0 yellows. How many blues do you have? 8 blues. Okay, so you'll write 8. How many greens?
Now are we recording?
Stop cheating.
And then how many reds?
Alright, go.
We have 4, we have 4,
You wanna have your predator?
and then we have 6.
Okay, so then you only take the ones that are repopulated and those go on your environment. The rest you can go put back into your dead pile or your extra cuts. If there's more than 20, then we repopulated maybe a little too much. Cute.
So that's
One,
it. Good,
two,
good.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3, 1, 2, 5,
Oh, shit.
3, 4, 5. 10 plus 10 is 20.
I did it, I was just asking.
Oh, you're good. So then record the total. So how many reds do you have in total? Okay.
What she did.
And then purple, blues,
Yeah, those are the
yellows.
So now
Dead
we're
ones?
So this one you started with how many of each color at the very beginning? 4. There you go.
How do you know?
Purple is.
You're not supposed
2, 2, 6, 4,
to
6.
separate, like, once you get the dead color.
Now if you were to add all these up, it should equal to 20.
Miss,
Yes, ma'am.
once we have our second generation, do we go based off, based
We
the
can say this
third
is the second
generation off of the
test.
second generation?
Or no,
So
yeah, we have to.
you have to repopulate and then that goes into the third generation.
Oh, no, no, oh, we're good, we're good. We're supposed to do 20.
So then,
Another team.
1 yellow, 1 purple. And then if you add that up together, it should equal to, there you go.
Predators or like?
Yes, well, I want you all to assume different roles.
So this will make it.
No, he is not predator, he is now going to be something else.
So do I?
If you are the next predator, then yes, then you need to look away. So that way, everybody's doing every role. Yes. So when you record them, you take these and then you repopulate them. So, just like
What?
last time. So here you should have 10 left, right? 3, 4, 5.
My mistake was.
Go away. 2, 3,
I'm like
4, 5.
mistake.
Now you need to match them. So I need 3 red.
Yeah. I thought because like she would look to
3 reds.
so she would grab the middle, and she did the opposite.
You graph what it would be after they repopulate. So you use this as your base. I need 2 greens.
Okay.
There? That was fast.
How many purples do I need?
What up?
How many yellows do I need? Okay. And then 2
Joseph, you're the
blues.
referee. You're the referee and the recorder.
No. You won't be here tomorrow. Thursday we're working on it in class. Okay. So this is what you have after you've repopulated. This is generation 2 in your data. So this is what you write down. So you now have 6 red, 4 green, 2 purple, 4 yellow,
I should
4
challenge
blue.
her like think
That
like
goes in
blue
part
ones
2.
like once.
Okay? So you take what's left as your foundation, repopulate, and then record the data. Okay?
So.
What the hell? Okay, there you go. Oh, wow, Eddie.
So purple would be.
What's the
2.
chicken?
Yeah.
Oh.
I exterminated.
Oh wait, this is 0. Did you exterminate or did you?
Oh, what's the word for it? 16.
So, who is the you? You
predator.
So the predator caused an extinction of Y.
You said the data, right?
What are the dots supposed to represent? No yellow Good job.
How many do I have?
Mhm. Yep. So 8, 16, so you're missing one. Okay, so was there one that fell or?
There's a blue one down there.
Okay, so then let's grab that blue one. It might have fallen through the middle. So go ahead and populate that.
And then purple's.
Is this your final generation?
Both of them.
No, you have
See,
two more?
when we
Okay.
start off 20 butterflies.
So go ahead and populate that.
So, we said it?
In 1 minute, we're gonna reassess how much more time we have.
This week, when we reset, it has to be a fresh 444, right?
No, when you reset, you use this data.
Okay, so we keep this.
Yeah, so if those are the ones from generation 2, that's whoever my environmental setup person is, you're repopulating now with this data. 2 purple, 4 yellow, 4 blue, 4 green, 6 red. No, you can just sprinkle them on top if you want. It's totally up to you. It's however you wanna do it.
Wait,
did we do one already?
Just make sure that there are 20 on that sheet.
Look away.
Can we put all the dead butterflies in the same cup?
Yeah, that's fine.
Close your, don't look at
Alright.
it.
You don't need to record how many died. You record how many lived.
Butterfly life.
Wait, look at
You're
it.
supposed to look at it.
Right.
You're supposed to look at it.
Look at it, first of all.
Joseph, you said you. Okay, I'll look at the rest.
We give it to you.
Okay, in accordance to our butterfly theme.
No, wait, we're not done yet.
I understand. Let's come back together really quickly in 3, 2, 1. So I'm gonna do a quick whip around to see which generation you're at to gauge how much more time we need with the collecting of the data part. So just go ahead and when I point to your table, tell me what generation you're on.
We're on generation 4.
2.
Okay, so it seems like we are gonna need about another 10 minutes to continue collecting our data.
Yeah.
So go ahead and take that 10 minutes, and then we'll continue from there.
You ruined our
Yeah.
Because you ruined our data, Crystal.
Positive.
Hey.
How about, what's another word for you ruined our data?
You messed up the data.
No. The data is now what?
We're gonna stop targeting blue.
Manipulated. Skewed? There you go. Possible error analysis?
Yeah, there's an error.
There you go.
Alright, watch this trick. We'll do back this.
Go ahead.
8.
My turn. My eyes are closed.
Turn around.
I should have gotten the little sleeping mask.
Yeah. What a cheater. Turn around.
Like the rest
I
of
guess
us.
you're
Turn around. Turn around.
I can't wait to get to the end.
Every now and then, you'll go.
Interesting tactic.
No.
Okay. So go ahead and count up the ones that are alive.
But like, get double.
Yep, should be 10.
Blue and 11.
So remember what our prediction was, purple and red.
What about these three? They all die?
Brianni, that's, oh, that's 10, right? Thank you. I heard. What an amazing ear it is. I can hear.
What?
I'm looking at size,
Beep,
like,
beep, beep.
depending on where you're going.
Cheater.
Oh, I can see them all.
Are you hiding?
You're like this. She's ready to attack.
I'll be Mercury.
You get one.
Draft.
Yes, I couldn't sleep yesterday, like at night.
How are you feeling?
My chest was
I can memorize why you're losing.
Get one, get one, get one, get one.
That's kind of been the consensus.
Like this segment guy with my car, I was
Get one. Hey there. Get one. He's cheating. He's picking up hard.
No, I cannot.
I understand your concern. You know what to do.
Email. Cheater. Get one. No, even my dad was like, did you go to the hospital? I was like, yeah. Got people that are sleep. Oh my god. Yeehaw.
You sounded like right now.
See, purple's like Crips and Blood.
Have any of our butterflies gone extinct yet?
Say.
Yellow's gone extinct. Over here, have any colors gone extinct yet? Yellow?
That was cute. No, no, no.
Yellow's gone.
On the back.
And then over here, yellow has gone extinct.
Coincidence, I see.
There's a coincidence.
Oh.
Just coincidence, I kill all the species. I'm not thinking, I just know what you were. I'm not thinking. I'm just out for the bloods. Being recorded, right? That's 10.
And I am. It's right there. Behind her. Like, I'll have to blur your face after all.
You do one time.
No, so the final is just letting you know that's gonna be the final round.
Yeah.
So do the same thing you've been doing,
I'm out of red.
just one last time.
On my DMX and I kill them.
Very boring.
That was 3.
I walked in your classroom.
Can you turn around?
Turn
Dude, I'm so close to it.
I'm just gonna.
The Jaguars.
I was so close and then I failed. So then 8. Oh, I didn't fail. I got like a B. On one of the tests, and now I'm like
She's the
Everybody else in the classroom.
Stop looking.
Good. I thought it was really easy.
I thought I did.
Alright.
Miss, what are we doing? We keep on taking her around.
Oh my.
Who's the referee?
I am.
Blow the whistle.
I was like, this is not scary. Right? Oh my god. I saw that. I was like, yeah. Like that Axon one, I was like, ooh. Forgot about that.
Yeah, but
What? I was
Not
like,
yet.
go.
Not yet.
Wait.
Hold on.
I lost
Hold on. Wait.
That seems like a bias right there.
Hold on, hold on.
That's a bias.
That's a bias.
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
I'm not looking for green, but
Oh yeah.
Alright.
you always.
That seems like a bias.
He knew that one.
Y'all said red.
Go.
What's the point of
Dang, I got more red.
Yeah, I wanted to
Ah.
be more green.
I wasn't like
Okay, what's the
looking
last?
for you, but I was.
Let's
Oh,
go
my
in.
God.
Stop.
Oh, careful. Oh my goodness.
No.
Dang, I got more red. I wanted
Oh,
green.
Wow, this is red.
Stop doing it. She's kidding that.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, by what?
So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do we have? Oh, yeah.
Adolfo, you're my
I was
partner.
thinking, how did we have?
Just want to make sure that's why the head's
You're about to be like,
I was like, You can put your head back down. I just wanted to make sure. What, you want to take a little glance?
divided by the total colors. Oh, gosh. You have to do work. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay.
I think you just drew it on purpose.
I couldn't even count.
Oh.
I was like, where are they?
Yeah.
Oh, one fell. One poor butterfly fell.
Why don't you
Oh,
go
three
for
each.
Yeah. So the first column is all tiny.
How do you know you're doing the one on the bottom? Okay. What else?
I can check it.
Yes, and you pointed right at it. And Crystal said it. She just said it. She went, What did you just say? Oh, I thought I heard you say something else.
Formula?
You pointed to the number at the bottom. Why did you point there?
I don't know, because that's what has, all of them have to equal 100.
There you go. So when you add them all up, that's how you're gonna check your work.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, yeah.
So
Wow.
20, 40, 60, 80. There you go. So when you do them for every column, once you add them up vertically, they should equal. Thank you. 2. Okay, so I know a lot of you are finishing up either generation 5 or 6. As you're doing that, I just want to ask you a simple question. Which color has proven to be the least fit in your environment? Purple and yellow. Raise your hands, one person, and tell me why. Raise your hand.
They just said one yellow, it's easiest to see, so.
Okay, hold on one second. We do have a few people talking, and I need Boateng to answer this. This is in your summary question. So, Boateng, can you just respond one more time? Why is yellow and purple the least fit for the environment?
Because they stood out the most, they're the easiest to see, so it's the easiest to grab.
Perfect. All right, keep going and gathering your evidence for your generation 5 and 6. If you're done, start calculating the frequency and then answering the summary questions, and I'll walk around to see if you need any more help.
Was this 8? What is it? It's a 6. I don't know. Yeah, I was asking because I can't tell you. More.
Uh-oh.
And she always makes us laugh. Have you seen the song version? Like, oh, stinky. It's just
Okay, so we've finished our environment. I'll go ahead and take this. Now start working on calculating your frequency. frequencies.
So 20 divided by 100.
60%.
Oh, wait.
12 to 60%?
Yeah. 30, 40, 60. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so go ahead and try that. So, go ahead and try 2 divided by 20 on your calculator.
Go.
Oh, you can use your phone. Who has one that she can borrow?
Yo.
On the back of the sheet, that's the calculation that you write down.
So, 2
She didn't get it. I didn't give her her frick. I said it was.
Okay.
Just
Go
get
ahead
the
and write
one
that
on
down.
the side.
So, once you're done with that, if all of those equal to 100, purple and yellow. Okay? So keep working and keep doing that. Wait, hold it. I already know what you're gonna ask.
What do you graph?
Okay, if you need to graph the frequencies, what's the x-axis and what's the y-axis? Is it the percentage or you
Why
Yeah, and
should
then
the numbers like up
the X is the color.
Yeah.
The x is actually 2 things.
And number. What the hell? The colors and the.
So you can set it up either 2 ways. You can set it up generation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for generation 1, you'll have individual like purple, blue, red, green, yellow bars. So 6 per generation. You can color them. Or you can flip it and do purple and then generation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It all just depends on how you want to represent and make your data. You're gonna need a bigger graph than that.
I know, I messed up. Do you have white on this one? I need a wider graph, I can do it this way instead of that way.
Like 4 times 2.
You guys remember 48?
So on the x-axis,
Where are we at?
do we label like
I've been asking for either you do the trial or.
Yeah.
When I asked for what was the frequency, like, I just.
What was the frequency of each color at the start of generation 1? So at generation 1, it should have the same frequency. Why should generation 1 have the same frequency for all of them?
Because they're all started with one.
Yep, they all started with the same number. So you just need to figure out what is the percentage, because they're all gonna be the same percent. And how do you calculate the percent? So what number divided by what number? Okay, so it's 4, right, divided by, what is the total number of all colors at the end? How many colors?
Oh.
So, this one.
Who's the person who knows?
Right, it's the total number of all of them.
Excuse this interruption. Powerpuff Boys, you will be meeting in the theater at lunch. Powerpuff Boys will be meeting in the theater at lunch. Thank you.
Okay, and then that percentage is gonna answer that question.
oh, you don't do by percents? So this is the x-axis, like titling, like triangle and
So it'll be generation, right, cause this is, it's generation, and then, you can do by color, by butterfly, however you wanna phrase it. Briannie, thank you.
there's like 2 different.
Really good at that one.
Isn't this, you feel this out right here says like,
You already did.
add biryani.
0, 0, 10, 0.
They even tag you in it.
Wait, we add all this here?
No, this is the final time you do it. So this is it.
Does
So-
it say?
This one you started with, right? Then you hunted, you repopulated, hunted, repopulate, hunted, repopulate, hunted, repopulate, hunted, repopulate. You only need to do it 6 times. Or technically, what you should do for 5 times. So you're done. You ended up with 10 blue and 10 red. Okay?
You do like this.
Phone.
Like by barring each generation.
So now you're gonna calculate the frequency. So go ahead and put these away. So frequency means taking the number, dividing it by the total, multiplying it by 100. All right, we are gonna wrap up. It is time to go. We are going to. Thank you. We are going to continue completing these lab handouts on Thursday. Tomorrow you have your FAFSA day, so make sure that you know where you're supposed to be tomorrow, what classroom you're supposed to go to. If you do need help with that, I have a list. Other than that, again, Thursday, we are going to finish these labs in class. Your graphs are due today. Your pre-lab is due Thursday along with the lab. What questions do we have? All right, adios. I'll see you tomorrow. All right.